Oh, hello there. Welcome to Plastered Peace Theatre. This year's reading will be A Christmas Barrel by Charles Drinkins. Alexa, off. Grab your dram, dear lads and lassies, and lend me an ear to abuse. For I've a Yuletide tale of a tippler, his name Ebenezer Booze. Ebenezer was rich and a son of a bitch. He had plenty of money to spend, but he was so cheap that he'd only drink the foulest of big bottle blends. A true whiskey miser, I muse. Glen Youngin, Clan Shite, and old Johnny Brown were all that would catch Booze's eye. If his scotch didn't come in a big plastic bottle, then it was too fancy to buy. When Bob Cratchit begged for a Christmas time bonus, old Booze took some time to relent. He poured his employee a thimble of scotch, whose malt was a mere 1%. Ebenezer was that kind of guy. But then, on the night of a cold Christmas Eve, as he drank with but little concern, a man floated inside with a kilt and a dram. But his face was still hard to discern. Ebenezer assumed he was just shit-faced drunk, and this was but all a bad dream. But as the ghost floated closer and closer to him, he dropped his bad scotch and just screamed. It's you! It's you! Robbie Burns! Ebenezer, ya wanker, ya sad shitty shouse. Why drink with those blends with your free will? Tonight we'll be visiting 3 different spirits and taste of the fruits of their stills. Benriach, Glenglassaw, and even Glendronach. Was it them without sensation? We're starting this trip and doing it fast. 'Cause Scotch Club is so damn impatient. Brown Foreman is footing the bill. From his magic Scotch flask, Robbie poured out 2 drams and told Ebenezer to sip. First we clink, then we drink. Then we'll repeat 15 times. Then we'll go on a wee little trip. And they followed the plan as they toasted and drammed, as if neither could turn off the throttle. The world started spinning. You know how it goes on those nights when you've had a full bottle, which is every time scotch hits your lips. They woke up in Scotland. He knew it for sure. Not just from the shitty wet weather. The men were all wearing plaid dresses, or kilts, as they moved through the mud and the heather. It's time that you know that an old single malt is the king of the juice of the grain. Let's climb this grey hill towards the smell of the still. I don't want to drink in the rain. And they entered Benriach together. Ebenezer and Robbie waltzed right through the doors and began to pop open the casks. Apparently, when you're the ghost of a bard, well, you don't even have to bother to ask. A smoky Benriach was Booze's first dram as he hovered his nose just above it. He went on alert. It's like chewing wet dirt. But for some insane reason, I love it. Then Robbie poured more from his flask. The world circled and spun as the magic begun. when they clank and drank the malt potion. The dram magic worked, and our two drunken jerks transported with little commotion. Though the workers inside grew their eyes big and wide when they saw that the bard had returned, they all cheered with glee for the Scott VIP. Let's toast to the ghost of Rob Burns. Old Robbie brings out this emotion. Glenglassaugh Distillery was where they were at. Much better to say than to spell. Robbie said, "Quick, get this man a good dram. He's been drinking in blended Scotch hell." A man in a kilt grabbed a dusty old bottle, a malt from 1986. Booze tasted the malt, and then he rejoiced. "I'd write a bad poem for this." Whilst enjoying the rich, fruity smell. They bid their new friends at Glenglassaugh adieu. They head to the land of the sherry. Their last stop, Glendronach, is now known for Scotch, but once was the Glen of Blackberries. Rob and Booze wiped the mud off their shoes and began to tap all the old barrels. They were caught by a guard, but Burns looked at him hard. Ebenezer thought they were in peril. "It's okay. I know Rachel Berry." The next thing they knew, Ebenezer was home, and his head was maligning him bad. He had to assume that he hadn't consumed 60 drams with a dead bard in plaid. It was then that he spied, just right beside, his book of old Robert Burns poems, a fine whiskey glass with a dark single malt, and the words, "Do not take home." That didn't make him one bit sad. He slurped up the dram, and his life fully changed. It wasn't a dream as he thought. It was Glendronach 26, cask 81, that he drank with a drunken ghost Scot. His heart filled with joy as he ran down the street. Yes, every Scotch store he was storming. He bought every bottle of whiskey he could from the stills of that blessed Brown Foreman, as Robbie and Rachel have taught. I hope you've enjoyed this dram tale. Like Ebenezer, you must each learn. Don't waste precious liver on cheap, shitty brands. It's the top malts for which you must yearn. Spending your hard-earned cash on fine Scotch should not be at all controversial. We hope you've enjoyed this short poem, which was quite the Brown-Forman commercial. It's okay. Just ask Robbie Burns.